Oh my God, taxpayer-funded abortions? It's every conservative's worst nightmare, right? Yeah, most people have a pretty, sensible opinion when it comes to abortions. Some people, the ones that like to be held up by the media, is just these crazy, radical, religious types. No, not the ticking turban types, but no, those crazy crackers out there in the hills that just care about their guns, and then they just keep their women barefoot and pregnant at all times. It's just as radical as on the other side of the aisle, where you just have those people who keep a fucking punch card to make sure that their next abortion's free. Because just gauge the size of the different marches between the pro-life and the women's march, the pro-choice, which I don't think is a fair description, because does that fetus get a choice in the matter? Like I've stated before in several different videos as well, my opinion on abortions, first trimester, unless something tragic happens, extenuating circumstances, I'm cool with, okay? Get it figured out as soon as you can, get it set up as soon as you can, don't make me pay for it. But that's what they're asking for here, and I don't like it. Okay? President Joe Biden released his fiscal year 2022 budget Friday, and it's not pretty if you like to look at the national debt and wonder what the fuck the Fed's on. But if you're into wasting money, boy, do we got a budget for you. One that would eliminate the long-standing Hyde Amendment and force American taxpayers to fund abortions. The Hyde Amendment has enjoyed tremendous bipartisan support for decades, including from Biden himself. In April 1994, to be fair, it's so long ago, he probably doesn't remember, then Senator Biden wrote to a constituent, "Those of us who are opposed to abortion should not be compelled to pay for them." Yeah, but that was Biden 1994 when he was calling out certain populations for being predators that needed to be removed from society. Biden wasn't always just an empty head. He was kind of based at some points. Anyways, a Knights of Columbus Marist poll released in January found 58% of those surveyed opposed taxpayer funding of abortions, including 31% of Democrats, 83% of Republicans, and 65% of independents. They don't care, okay? For the most part, if you want to fucking figure it out in the, a generally agreed upon range, that's fine. Just don't ask me to pay for it, okay? The poll also found that more than 3/4 of Americans, 76% barely, back significant restrictions on abortion, including a majority who identify as pro-choice. Yeah, that whole Ralph Northam strategy, governor of Virginia, at least for right now, his whole fourth-term abortions, they don't exactly fly as far as at least the Democrats would hope. But Representative Barbara Lee, a Democrat from California, what? Proclaimed great news on Twitter when it was apparent the White House did not include the Hyde Amendment in its proposed budget. Yep, she natters on in her box wine stupor, has become the first president in decades to remove the Hyde Amendment from the budget, helping advance our fight to end this racist and discriminatory policy once and for all. Yeah, just don't look into the history of the lady who put all the abortion clinics in those neighborhoods. So yeah, I think that you're probably using the term racism a little bit incorrectly, as you might think that you are. However, Students for Life Action President Kristen Hawkins called on Congress to add Hyde Amendment protections in Biden's proposed budget to defend young lives from prejudice of those who look at a child in the womb and only see the cost of raising them rather than the infinite potential. Again, this is when this kind of messaging just falls on deaf ears for me. It's like I've seen this popular argument out there. It's like, how can you reconcile being pro-life, but yet at the same time you're also pro-death penalty? Pretty fucking easy. It's an innocent life, okay? Once it has a heartbeat, once it has brain activity. Listen, you don't call somebody dead as long as they have brain activity when they're at the end of their fucking rope. It's up to more tubes than a fucking Wet and Wild adventure at Six Flags theme park. Why can't it be the same for when a life is created and gestated, I suppose? I just don't think that argument holds a whole hell of a lot of water. And it's a lot more compelling than just... potentially not, though. You know what? I'm just a lot more persuaded by scientific arguments, by fact-based arguments. But you know what? If this type of rhetoric gets people energized, that's fine. But at the same time, I don't think that those should be the people who are making any sort of informed choices anyways. The Biden administration's decision to prioritize ending life rather than solving problems reflects a catastrophic failure on their part, said Hawkins. An abortion industry and its allies celebrated the potential for abortions to be paid by American taxpayers. Yeah, Planned Parenthood, we testify, advocates for youth, whatever. But they reference it a lot, and to be honest, I don't know what it is. So we're going to learn together right here. What is the Hyde Amendment? Hyde Amendment effectively prevents federal funding from being used to pay for abortions, with very limited exceptions, via any program that is administered by the Department of Health and Human Services. The amendment, sponsored by Representative Harry Hyde, a Republican. What? Oh, this is from 76 in Illinois. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Enacted in 1976, and although it has never become a permanent law, Congress has renewed it annually for the past 4 decades, just, kicking it around and not ratifying it, attaching it as a rider to HHS appropriation bills. The only exception under the Hyde Amendment are cases involving rape or incest, or when the mother's life is in danger. Yeah, those are always those extenuating circumstances that if somebody's advocating for putting restrictions or limiting the time in which they want abortions to be available, those are normally the ones that you just kind of accept as extreme, unlikely circumstances that should be taken into account, all right? Because you don't need any more fucking flipper kids out there in the world. Especially if they've been, chained to a radiator for like 6 months. So, fair enough. So it's something that's been around for the better part of 4 goddamn decades, okay? And it's something that Republicans, if they were doing their job in both houses of the legislature, they would be screaming about, okay? If they were doing their job. But that's not the state of the fucking modern day Republican Party, because, oh my God, is there a unnecessary divide. Listen. We know the direction the party is going. It just depends once it gets to that next fork, okay? Which direction it goes. Pardon my outstretched arm. I'm not trying to signal anything. There's so many people, and there's a segment I'm going to be doing in the next couple of days that refers back to this. But there are so many entrenched neocons in the different, especially in the State Department, but work in the DOD, work in the DOJ, that are all old Bushites, okay? All holdovers from that same malaise that came from H.W. Bush all the way up to the Obama administration. The fact that there was very little difference in their policies over that just about 3 decades, that should tell you something, okay? The fact that they can all get along so well, that just tells you that the letter at the end of their name really doesn't mean much. You should just change that to a big fucking U for Uniparty. And they're just not letting this shit go, okay? It's going in a populist direction, okay? I can keep screaming it from the rooftops. The elections themselves, the special runoff elections, keep showing you that the guys who are out there, the ones who support populism, the ones who are truly America First candidates, keep winning over and over again with the people, with the constituency, not with these old crusty fucking neocons. It's gonna be a bloodbath in the primaries unless something fucked up happens, okay? I don't want to add that little disclaimer, but that's just where things are trending, okay? And with all the ratifications that are happening with different election laws, I don't see that fucked up shit happening. Unless something cataclysmic happens. Something like Kevin McCarthy continues to bang on this weird drum that he's just got this fucking bloodlust against Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's one person, okay? She's a bit of a nutter, I grant you, but she's a terrific counterbalance to the squad because she pisses off the right people, okay? That's fine. But you have so many other good House members that are freshmen that are leaning in the right direction. Madison Cawthorn, Lauren Boebert, and then older guys like Jim Jordan, Steve Scalise, guys in the House that are doing good jobs, doing good work. Fucking Scalise took a bullet for this shit, so what the fuck? But as the Federalist points out here, yeah, Republicans keep making completely unforced errors, so the media will like them. And that's what they want. They want that Fox News coverage back, okay? They want Karl Rove on there just being MC Rove, just licking their fucking sack, but those days are over. Nobody cares, okay? You fucking aged out your demographics. Nobody's hopping on that fucking bandwagon anymore. Everybody who's going to be voting in the near future don't give a fuck about Fox News, okay? Don't give a fuck about traditional media. They really don't, and there's no bringing them back. Critical race theory is targeting our children and infiltrating our media. Fact. Boys are being subjected to castration by mentally ill parents and their enablers in the mental health and medical fields. Where's the lie? Hollywood, the National Basketball League, which is going to be the subject of our third video, and oh boy, am I pissed, and leading tech companies are subverted to a fiercely hostile foreign dictatorship. Democrats have launched an inquisition against their political opponents under the banner of the 9/11 Commission. That's, Insurrection Commission. And with unlimited access to Congress's documents, businesses cannot find young workers to hire while the federal government pays them to stay at home. Yeah. And thankfully, some states out there, I don't have the names offhand, but there are some states in the very, very, very near future that are just going to be like, you know what, that additional help for coronavirus relief, yeah, we don't need that from the federal government. That's cool, guys. We'll just let everybody go back to work. We'll just start unlocking doors, and hopefully some of those small businesses you haven't effectively killed, and we'll be able to resuscitate them back to life, breathe a little bit of oxygen in there instead of just allowing you to pay them $1,000 a month better than what they could have been making by just sitting at home voting Democrat on whatever amount of ballots show up at their house. But back to this. Instead, this week, the news is about how House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy took to the stage to condemn a backbencher in his own caucus. Yeah, Marjorie Taylor Greene, because she made an analogy, I think it was between masks and Nazis. And whenever you invoke the name Nazis, people like Kevin McCarthy, they just start to tremble in fear, even though it's kind of an apt analogy. At least it was. I don't have it pulled up, but she uses spicy language in order to grab headlines. And then McCarthy gets upset because she grabs headlines. That's why she was elected, you tard. Not content to be left out of the suicide party, former Speaker Paul Ryan, took a break from his corporate boards Thursday. Fox News is one of those, by the way. He's got a big comfy gig over there, announcing he would give a speech to denounce former President Donald Trump. Whoop-de-fucking-do, pal. Whoop-de-fucking-do. Of course, McCarthy doesn't want to be bogged down by the comments from a popular but ill-disciplined freshman member of caucus when he shouldn't be, and not so difficult trick to that is not talking about it. If he needs a pointer on the instructional YouTube video of the subject, he can do a quick web search for Nancy Pelosi asked about anti-Semitic squad. Yeah, it's weird, right? They were so totally against Nancy Pelosi, and then all of a sudden, all of them that were there ended up voting for her again to be the Speaker of the House. It's fucking weird how when the purse strings start to get pulled a little tight, all of these radicals, yeah, they start to fall in line now, don't they? It's almost like whenever Rashida Tlaib or Ilhan Omar or AOC have another one of their, their moments. It's almost like it's consistently used to be a distraction from something nefarious that the rest of the House is trying to pull off. As for Ryan, if he doesn't want the GOP to be the party of Trump, he might present a serious alternative. Yeah, and no more of the same policies and platforms that saw him losing the presidential ticket against then unpopular President Barack Obama. Yeah, his approval numbers were some of the lowest going into the 2012 election, Then saw him leave Washington with a little done aside from a panel discussion and news about how he a little wonky. A big part of the upheaval we're experiencing in American politics is because the leadership of both parties lacks any coherent vision. Conservative consultant Jordan Gerke wrote in April addressing the kvetching of many of his peers and colleagues, and he's completely right. Yes, exactly, because the base of the Republican Party knows exactly where it wants to go, and the base of the Democratic Party are just content that it's no longer Orange Man in the office. But eventually, when he achieves his second term, he'll eventually be gone, or enough time will pass by where the media is just going to create another figure in order to hoist up and call the latest version of a Nazi. They did it with W, and as much as that was just controlled opposition, it was effective. It rallied the base, and it led to 8 years of more Kenyan-scented malaise. Leadership isn't imposed from speeches by people who have had power and failed to exercise it prudently. And no one wants to hear from Paul Ryan. That's very funny. In the same vein, leadership is setting the path forward and not playing the statement game with a hostile, dishonest, and deeply discredited corporate media rage machine, which you are a part of perpetuating, Ryan. And everybody knows where you went after you fucking left the House, trying to block everything that Trump was doing in his first 2 terms. Or his first 2 years, You were the leader of the House. You could have pushed through everything that was possible. You could have got the funding for the wall. You could have done a bunch of other fun shit, but instead you were just staring at your shoes, being mad because Orange Man bad. I think, I don't have any proof on this, but I think Paul Ryan is probably case 0 when it comes to Trump derangement syndrome. Because that motherfucker was barking up the walls, up the fucking walls. At least when it comes to specific Rhino cases during the 2016 primaries. He was insufferable. While Ryan's tenure was nearly useless, McCarthy's has been far from it. The House gains in 2016 owe some credit to his understanding of the political movement he was in and acting accordingly, but the same fault as Ryan holds him back from truly steering an already difficult Republican caucus, the deep urge to be popular. I know, right? Because one thing that the Republicans are on the cusp of is being the party of the working man. And guess who makes up the most of the United States? The working man. And Republicans don't know how to do that. Guys like McCarthy and Ryan, they know how to do one thing very, very well. How to be a failure. How to be a failure. Any aspect of life, it is impossible to be a leader if you simply want everybody to like you. Yes, Ryan preferred the applause the American Enterprise Institute set to fighting the left, and it showed. Exactly, this nebulous left. That's why I get so pissed off whenever you hear one of these fucking empty suits up there being like, socialism is bad. We cannot let the communists win. The left is bad and wokeism is a problem. Cancel culture. What the fuck are you saying? Be specific with your words. Unless, of course, you're just trying to grift. And if people are dumb enough not to see through that kind of stuff, well, God bless, and hopefully you got a big old 401k at the end of it because you've done nothing but send the future of the nation down the fucking river. And that's what Paul Ryan does, okay? Oh, the socialism, the socialism, the socialism. Shut up, do something. McCarthy was faced with a backstabbing, self-serving egomaniac on his leadership staff and fully held the political power to end her time in leadership. He preferred instead to share the blame for kicking Representative Liz Cheney to the backbenches with the entire House caucus. The result, a drug-out fight in full view of the media who care far more for Republican infighting than they do White House reporting. I would imagine, and we looked a few times over at CNN when big stories were breaking, and I remember pulling up the homepage a few times, and what was on the front page? Still some kind of orange man bad, still something about Liz Cheney, trying to give her a platform, but guess what? Her 15 minutes of fame, gone. She's gone. Because that's all they care about. Sensationalism. Make the right look bad. Allow the left, allow the Democrats to just work in darkness. Because exposing them, God, you'd have a field day. You would have so much content if you were as fast and loose with the truth that you were with the Trump administration. You wouldn't even have to make up any sort of hysterics if you were being fair to what is happening right now. Just look at that. What was it? Was it the COVID relief bill? I do believe it was, where millions and millions of dollars is getting sent to Pakistan for gender education. If you guys were being fair and honest, that is fucking hilarious why Biden would send that over there. I've made multiple jokes on it. As many jokes as the deputy health secretary has pronouns, and you have enough writers over there, you guys could make a fucking show out of this kind of stuff, right? You would actually have engaged audience. But no. Just laugh at your opposition. It's fun sometimes, but you can't make a sustainable model out of it. And in closing here, despite the media lessons given to us by Richard Nixon, Ronald Reagan, Newt Gingrich, Pat Buchanan, and Donald Trump, if you guys are ever looking for any kind of specific conservative-ish reading material, you just want to do a little bit of historical understanding, Pat Buchanan's books, Death of the West. What do I got over here? Suicide of a Superpower. I've got it just waiting. It's in the wings here. It'll tell you everything you need to know, okay, of how this is just, all of this politics shit is completely cyclical, okay? The issues might change, but the tactics don't. Now, Republicans of nearly every stripe have continued to play in the media sandbox. The price has always been clear enough. And if you want to talk about your agenda, talk about the future, talk about critical race theory, talk about mutilating children, talk about Chinese collusion, talk about unfettered inquisition, the destruction of the economy, talk about Pelosi, talk about conspiracy theorists and Marxists and racists and anti-Semites in the Democrat Party. Name names, be specific. If you want to play the media's game, you need to sacrifice a Republican ally. Exactly. If you just want to play for fame, If you just want to get on the fucking State of the Union with Jake Tapper, by all means, throw MTG off a bus, okay? Say Matt Gaetz sniffed your fucking middle schooler. Do something like that. Do something completely fucking stupid. Something that'll ensure that you don't get reelected again. And that's what the Republican Party is so great at right now. So great. They have a clear and honest direction, straightforward, and they've had at multiple different turns in the road. Under Reagan, when Newt Gingrich finally won back the House for the first time in a generation. Pat Buchanan's been outlining it for nigh 30 years at this point. You have your leader right now. You have your leading principles with Trump and Trumpism and populism. Embrace it. Be popular. People want to vote for you. You just keep giving them reasons not to. And it's infuriating to watch, but I actually feel optimistic about this party. I think that they can probably get their head out of their ass long enough to assess their shortcomings and really take advantage of an incredibly weak opposition. Because as much as the media is pointing out the infighting of the Republican Party, it's a hell of a lot, the future in the Republican Party is a hell of a lot stronger than whatever mangled mess is over there on the left. That is a fucking disaster in and of itself, and I've taken up more than enough of your guys' time in outlining what I think of the current Republican Party. Yeah, fight back against taxpayer-funded abortions. That's a big, big, big ticket and a losing effort, especially as weird and wild as the Democrats want to go. You just need to harp on that stuff. And you need to harp on the stuff that is very, very popular to oppose that Democrats are pushing, like Chinese influence, like critical race theory, like gender transitions for minors. None of that shit is popular. Most of that stuff is talking points for a bulk of Democrats. Hammer them on that. Stop hammering your fucking friends. Deal with it behind closed doors. That's your job. Be a fucking leader for once. Christ almighty. And with that said, I thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.